I get shooters asking me all the time, how do you build a real true video camera with a DSLR? What we have here is a Canon R5. It's Ray's camera. He's the guy that rode up with me from Denver to Alaska, and he's been shooting R5 for a couple of years. He wants to get into a little bit more serious video, a system that works more as a video camera and not a DSLR. So to do that, we've assembled all of these parts, and it's little things that are like little rails that might cost $12, all the way up to a piece that comes from wooden camera, and this thing is like 500 bucks. So it can be on the spendy side, but you can do it fairly inexpensive. But once we assemble all these parts, we're gonna have a long lens system, a long lens video camera, riding on rails, using a focus wheel to get real true video action out in the field. And we're gonna get it on 4K and 8K with the R5. So it should be pretty cool. Okay, so we've started out by putting the camera body and the lens together with the cage on. Our next step is to have camera support and rails, which will allow us to put a long lens support piece on there, but also put our focus wheel on there. We're gonna need a little bit of separation between the bottom of the camera and then where the rails are gonna go. So that will be our next step right now. And this is gonna screw right in with the 3/8. There's a 3/8 hole here, right there. And so you can see that you're gonna have from here where the rails are at to the bottom of the camera are two different sizes. So we have to adjust for that size. So that's why we've got all these other little pieces. What we're essentially doing is we're creating one unit out of both the camera body and the lens. And that is what's gonna tie everything together are these rails. I had Ray buy two sets of rails. We've got some 12-inch rails and then we have some 18-inch rails. Currently, he's using a 100 to 400 Canon lens, but he also has a 600 f4, which is a much longer lens. So these 18-inch rails will probably come in handier for that, and it gives you a lot more latitude when you're putting your focus wheel or some other accessories on there to have more to play with. So that's the reason for the two. These camera rails are titanium, so they're a little bit on the spendy side, but what you save is weight. You know, when you start putting all this stuff together, it's going to be a pretty heavy camera. So it's probably an extra $100 to have these titanium rails, but I think in the long run, you'll be happy because it's not as heavy. So what we want to do now is pull these rails out of their protective sleeves, and then we'll get it run through the long lens support. And then from there, we'll see what we've got to make up. What Ray has going on right now is we've put the bridge plate, which is this bigger piece from wooden camera, onto the rails from Bright Tangerine. And then that's attached to the long lens support, which is a wooden camera accessory. So now we're starting to get all of this stuff so that everything ties together. But now you can see, look at the space between the bottom of the camera and the bridge plate. That's where our problem lies, because we just have one point of contact right now. So if you've got this thing on a tripod, everything's held off right there, and it's not going to be the steadiest of images or the steadiest of supports. So now what we want to do is make some sort of attachment that goes from here to here. And that's the one thing we figured out when we were when I was in Louisiana with Stephen Kirkpatrick. We just thought about it and went over stuff a bunch of times, and we came up with the little system that we're about to put together.
We put this system here on to take up for this distance here, so it's supported here now. You know, there's nothing in here, but it's supported in the back here with these rails, mini rails, short rails.
So basically what we've done is we've taken 4 different parts, just miscellaneous parts on Amazon, and made them all work. And we've got a plate here that is basically, I think it's called a unified cheese plate, and it has 1/4 20s along the side on the back. So we were able to take just a regular 15mm rail attachment and screw that into the back of that plate. And then if you look at the wooden camera plate, it actually had 1/4 20s across the back too. So we took another one of those rail attachments, or I don't even know what they call these, and we put that in there. So now what we've got is the ultimate in adjustment up and down. And these are blocking the screen right now, but we can just slide them down when we go to operate. And then what's what this does now is it has the ability to put any different kind of lens on here. So if you get a foot that is a little bit longer and the rails go further down or further that way, then we can make up that adjustment here. And we're actually doing these are just 4 inches, these those 15 millimeter rails. But if you look in our pile over here, we've got some 6-inch rails too. So if you ended up having a bunch of distance in between here, we could add another, a bunch of adjustment here. And we might want to go with these yet anyways, because in a little bit later on in this build, you'll see that we have a battery attachment to run dummy batteries to the camera itself, and then one over here to the monitor. So that might give us a little bit more adjustment there. But what essentially this has done is it's created a unified camera system where the weak point now is not at the lens attachment. If we were just supporting with the lens foot and that was your only point of contact, which you could do on a tripod very easily, if you start putting a monitor up here on the cage and you put a big battery back here, if you're gonna run dummy batteries, what happens is all that weight is resting right on this point right here. So right on that lens attachment where it attaches to the adapter, all that weight is resting on that. So if you set your camera down hard or you fall or whatever, this is your weak point and it could break. Now, this whole system, what it does is provide much better support throughout. And then we're also going to be able to put a focus wheel on there very easily. And we're going to be able to put our battery attachment on there very easily. And we'll have a handle on it. And this is one great big camera unit, which should make for a really solid system. The cool thing about this next little piece, this actual plate here, is it slides right in there. So if you can see right here, this is basically an Arca Swiss. So if you're using an Arca Swiss style tripod, this piece is gonna attach to your tripod, and then this piece just slides right in. You might need the locking mechanism is down here. Pull it one way or the other. Here. There you go.
Oh, that's what that is.
And then go all the way, and then tighten it with that red. Okay, so that locks. So what that's done now is you've got this whole distance right here to balance this camera. One of the keys to really good video is a balanced tripod, because you don't have a lot of shake, or when you let your camera go or let the tripod go, your camera is not slowly tilting forward because you don't have enough adjustment. This is going to give us plenty of adjustment to find that sweet spot for the balance and hence get way better video. Our next step, what I think we ought to put on next, is let's modify this focus wheel so that it fits on these rails and then attaches to the camera, the focusing mechanism on the camera. What we've done here is I had this as an extra piece, this Tilta focus wheel, and this thing is made for 15 millimeter rails, so there's no way it's gonna fit. What we're gonna do is take that piece out, and then we're gonna use this other piece that we bought. There you go. And then we're gonna take this piece off, put this piece on so it fits on 19 millimeter rails, and then we'll have adjustment with our focus wheel to go in and out depending on where it's going to be. So that's the next step. And this is what we have so far. So now we have the focus wheel on here, and this thing is like butter. This thing is just traveling so nice. I mean, there's not, like I use some lenses where this is very tight, so when you move you get a little camera shake, but this one is so smooth it's going to run really well. I'm sure this is an older lens, so the focus has eased up over time and it's not as tight as this was when it was new. So man, it just looks or feels awesome, and it looks cool too. So that's on. The next step, I think what we need to do is let's do a monitor, and we have a little bracket over here for mounting a monitor, and then we also have a cable that screws in so that we're not going to be yanking the cable off at some point. we've got to the point now where we've got the monitor on there, the focus wheel. We've got a monitor keeper on there, so it'll hold that cord, but that is the weakest link in this whole system, is that cord sticks out. So if you're walking through the woods, it'd be real easy to snag that. But for now, Ray, why don't you put it up on the tripod?
Is it sliding or tilting or?
Well, it's just like a regular Arca Swiss, but don't let go.
I'm not sure I'm in there, but see if we can.
But now you've got all that adjustment, right?
Yep.
And you've got one unified piece, so it's all going to work together. So now you've got a bona fide, Kentucky Fried camera system. And then we can lower these so that you can still use this monitor.
Right.
So actually do that real quick. So here's the final setup. Got the Shinobi on there. Got all of our adjustment built in. Got a super smooth focus ring. And it is smooth. Got focus peaking on. This now is a legit video camera.